some people a couple more minutes to join us, but yeah, she's had such an amazing journey throughout her blogging career, and I think that she's got a lot of sage knowledge for us to learn from beginning to where she is now with her monetization and just her brand in general. And so I'm really excited to have you, Liz. I think I'll just let you introduce yourself. And I'm pretty sure everyone here knows you, so I know you've got some big fans in the audience today, but I'd love to just hear from you what sort of your brief story has been, and then I've got some questions for you before opening it up to the group. So you guys, as we go, feel free to type any questions that you have for Liz into the chat, and we will get to them at the end.
Yeah, cool. Hi guys, I'm Liz and I run the travel blog Young Adventurous. I'm originally from DC in the States, but I started my blog about 10 years ago. I transitioned and I moved to New Zealand, and that's where I'm based now, which is pretty awesome. I don't know where in the world you guys are, but in New Zealand we've been really lucky with how things are going, and we're pretty much like COVID free here, and it's like life is normal except our borders are closed. So we're just like this little island away from everyone. And so yeah, I started my blog when I was teaching English in Spain. I just wanted a place to record my stories and keep track of all the adventures that I was having. And after a while, I noticed people were reading it, and I was like, oh, this is weird. Who are these people that aren't my mom? And then over the couple of years, I sort of learned that travel blogging was a thing. And at that point, I was really debating whether or not I would return to the States and go to graduate school. But deep down, I just really wanted to keep traveling. I had the itch really bad, and I wanted to keep telling stories. And what's really cool is I sort of made that decision in 2012 and spent less than a year working to build up my site with enough traffic and make enough like side income to be able to quit my last job in like corporate America and be able to make enough money blogging. But it's been it's been such a crazy journey. Like it's never easy. Every year how I earn money changes, and I struggle with a lot of things like burnout and having a good work-life balance. And, I go through major ups and downs on my journey for the past 10 years. And, you go through weeks where you're wondering if you even want to do this, or like when you're going to get paid next. And other times you're like on such a high and you're like, this is great. But I mean, and then something like COVID happens, and it's just like, shit, you've got to be really like flexible and like on your toes all the time. And probably the coolest thing I've learned through travel blogging is not about blogging, and it's about like, it's almost business and marketing, and how I've learned to be able to be flexible and see trends and take risks, and try new things all the time, and just take all these lessons I've learned from a career in travel blogging and sort of apply it to my life and the work that I want to be doing. And that's really cool. So like in a lot of ways, I'm not even really doing the travel blogging thing or influencing thing right now, but really pivoting all the work that I'm doing and trying to apply it to new ways and see where that'll take me over the next couple of years. Whew. there's a lot of stuff like in the middle of all of that, and there's so many things I could tell you guys, but I'd like to hear maybe a little more about like what you might want to hear from me about, or what things you're struggling with at the moment. Like, what are you guys focusing on in your calls and everything?
So this has been sort of a module by module coaching thing. We started with branding, having like a cohesive brand message. We talked about search engine optimization. We talked about niching down, and this month is all about monetization. So I was excited to have you join us for this month, because I wanted to talk to you about your VA experience, because a lot of the women in the group are newish and are not, I don't think anyone is fully self-sustaining off of their blog quite yet. So sort of that getting from here to there is really helpful, I think, to talk about. And also, let's start there actually before I throw all these things at you.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and it's funny because it's like monetization is what everyone wants to know about. And it's interesting because I'm sure you guys have already seen all these lessons just like go hand in hand. And basically, when I started working as a VA for like a really popular blogger back in 2012, 2013, and I was just doing like admin for them. And to be honest, I was really terrible at it. Like, I'm not really good at admin or tasks, or I'm not a very task oriented person or detailed person, but it was enough of like a side hustle to like keep me going while, you're trying, this is back in the day when like you didn't get paid to go on trips or things like that. You were trying to hustle for like sponsored, like, link placements and dodgy things that aren't even happening anymore. And I was just trying to patch enough work that would allow me to get to travel and just cover all my expenses. So I just, let me open the chat window so I can, how much travel did you deem appropriate to leave your job, from Teresa? Basically, well, I was in the States, so I had 10 days vacation a year, and I got my first press trip invite was to Jordan, and it was for 10 days, and I'd already used 6 of my days. So I was like, okay, I can either keep this job and be miserable, or this is the time to jump and take a leap of faith. And I did. It took me I have a blog post about it. It took me like a whole day to work up the courage to go in and resign, because I was so terrified. And, nobody supported me back then. Everyone said I was crazy. Like, how can you leave a 401k or whatever for blogging? And it's so funny. Like, it took years and years to show everyone that, like, I can't even imagine my life now if I had stayed that way. I was so unhappy. It wasn't what I wanted to be doing. And I find that when you have to take that leap of faith and, the universe will catch you, there's this phrase I love called jump and the universe will catch you. And it's kind of like you jump and you have to make it work. And I made it work, and sometimes it was really hard, some like 1 month I would live off my credit cards, until other stuff came in, and it just, the fear of failure really motivated me to hustle into trying to find more work. So I had this blogger ask me if I wanted to help him with admin. I won't say who it is, but it's sort of, I learned a lot of like what not to do as a travel blogger, managing his stuff. And then, piece by piece, I managed to get a couple of jobs, copywriting, like writing text for travel websites, getting a few freelancing jobs here and there. And then I got I'm trying to think, I think my first big sponsored project was with Lipton Iced Tea in New Zealand. So I did a campaign with them traveling around, and that was the first time where I got a real chunk of money. And that was really awesome. And then from there, I just sort of figured out what I liked doing and trying to pitch projects based on that. And what was really cool was that I was sort of one of the first people doing Instagram in New Zealand. And back in the day, I was sort of the travel blogger who really loved Instagram as well. So I was like kind of big on both platforms. And back in the day, like I was getting a lot of job offers from Australia and New Zealand as an Instagrammer, but not with my travel blog. I was either getting travel blog offers or like Instagram offers, and they weren't like really combined. It was almost like they were operating in two different areas, between writers and photographers. And after a couple of years, or a year of taking all these cool jobs, just taking photos, I was like, you guys know I have this massive blog, right? Like I could write on your blog, write about this on the blog as well. And then that's how I sort of made the connection, and I started to pitch projects covering all platforms. And at the time it was really new, like not a lot of people were doing that. Instagrammers didn't have travel blogs. Travel bloggers just sort of used Instagram as a way to like just keep sharing what they were doing, but it wasn't like their main monetization focus. But I found that through Instagram, taking those kinds of jobs is when I really started to get offered like a day rate, like a photographer. So I would, I think I started out getting like $500 a day or even less, or just like a straight fee for like a week-long job in a tourism region around the world, taking photos. And then I would try and sort of upsell them and like charge more and be like, well, I'm going to give you this blog content as well because, I've got this many readers. And they're like, oh yeah, that's great. That's great. So it's kind of like, if you can be sort of like, be very versatile, it's really important in this industry. And especially nowadays when budgets are getting tighter, if you can tick off more than one box and, figure out what a client is like looking for, and I always do that. Like when I'm approaching new clients, like I had a call yesterday with the tourism board and I was like, what are you working on now? Like, do you need photos? Are you looking for like written content? Are you looking for social stuff? Are you trying to reach, overseas? Are you trying to reach New Zealand? Like, what's your strategy? I figure out what their strategy is, and then I tailor what I can offer towards that, which I think is, I don't know, what would you say? Like, I think a lot of people sort of approach people and ask what they can have versus what they can give, you know? And
Yeah, what I like to do is make tailored pitches to that particular destination. Like, hey, this is what
yeah,
I did for someone else, maybe someone who's even a competitor of yours. Like,
yeah,
this was the results they got. And I think that you're right. A lot of travel bloggers don't do that. And I think that you don't even have to like, you just have to go a little bit above and beyond to already be doing so much more than a lot of your peers are doing. And I think
mm-hmm.
that is kind of lost on a lot of people, that like, you need to knock it out of the park if you get hired, not just like
Yeah.
have, not just be like, oh, you're so lucky you got me. It's like, no, it's the other way around.
Yeah, I always approach it because it's something you hear all the time. It's like there's a lot of people that are working as influencers that are really young. They can be really entitled, like really demanding. And instead, I always look at it from a really professional perspective and be like, I mean, I don't devalue myself at all, but I'm like, I ask really open questions like, what can I do for you? What are you working on? How can I help you achieve these goals? What are your marketing goals this year? Like, and I write it all down, and I'm like trying to figure out exactly what their pain points are, and then I send tailor pitches which address all of that like directly. And I also look at it like I always get hired again and again by the same people, and that's what I want as well. You know, like you don't want to just like get a bunch of money and go. It's so great if you can like nail a partnership where you come back every year, and you know they really love you, they recommend you to other peers. And a lot of people that work in like PR and marketing often change jobs, they cover different clients. You know, I've been hired by people who've moved between different agencies. Your name and your reputation is the most important thing, and I find that like even if it comes down to like some stupid argument about like $100 of car fuel, you know, like for me it's more important to keep that name and be seen as being really flexible and easy to work with and helpful, and as opposed to being like a pain in the butt, you know, because that's not going to get you hired again. And yeah, so I really make sure that I approach, and whenever I talk to people that I want to work with, like I approach them in this really like open way. And I don't one of my big strategies this is kind of like a secret, I always like under promise and over deliver content as well, because a lot of people are like so desperate to get hired, they're like, oh, I'll give you to the moon and back, you know. And it's like you set these impossible goals. Not only is it a bad standard for everyone who's also working in that industry, you know, it's like, you know, I'm pitching a client and I'll give them like 10 joint copyright images, you know, as part of the package. But then you have somebody else who's like gives them 500 raw files, you know. There's no like for free, you know, in exchange for a hotel room, you know. I always think about like, what is my time worth, what is I'm getting worth, and I do like a cost versus cost kind of scenario. And I break down my own costs. Like I know all my values of everything. I know this blog post is worth this much, an image for me is worth this much, an Instagram takeover is worth this much. And I went in my pitches, I put out a total cost of what that is, and then I come up with a fee that's lower than that. And I'm like, this is what my fee is, like, you know, and see what they say, and I'll negotiate it if I have to. And then when I go and do the trip, I always make sure, or do the job, I always make sure I do extra. And it's just like a simple hack of like, you know, you do more, people are happy, and they're like, whoa, she did more. So I always like set the bar low and then go over it. That's like one of my little like tricks, and it always works. And at the end, I don't know if you've talked about this, but I always send like a really detailed, well designed campaign report to everyone that I work with, of all the stats, the values of stuff that I've done. And I mean, just doing that, like probably 95% of people don't do that. And it just is another way to make you stand out and show people, especially people that are working in perhaps a more like traditional area and don't really understand bloggers or influencers and the value of it, and really do a breakdown and be like, this is exactly what I did, this is how many people I reached, this is the ROI of that. Like, take this to your boss and you can say, hey, this was a valuable campaign, we should do more of them. And just trying to set the bar pretty high of being professional, you know?
100%. I totally do the same thing where I under promise and over deliver. And people are so happy about that. When you give them this really good looking report afterwards, you've just made their job so easy. So of course they're going to be
Mhm.
enthusiastic about working with you again.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm actually curious, your first, I saw the Lipton thing and I have to tell you, I was so insanely jealous of you. I was like, oh my God, she's getting paid by a brand to go do stuff. Like this was so unheard of back then, you guys.
Yeah.
I was like, she's out there doing it. So cool. So
Mhm.
I want to go back to some pivotal moments for you when, you know, earning money maybe didn't come very easily and you were just like, oh my God, can I even keep doing this? From my observations, my outside observations, your sort of big um, moments were when you got featured by Instagram, but also like you moving to New Zealand, I think was a game changer, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and it was really funny because like I had built my blog for a couple years and I'd written so much about what it was like to be an American expat in Spain, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna move to New Zealand. And also I lived at home for a year in between, so wasn't really traveling. And I was like, no one's gonna follow along, no one's gonna care. Like it's, and you know, I did have to sort of rebuild my audience in a way, but like it was really great. And I found that like because I've been able to build such a amazing connection and community with my readers, they like come along with me on my journey, and I make sure that, you know, my stories, you know, they're about the places, but at the end of the day it's about the lessons that you learn in the community and in the growth that comes from travel. And like because I've taken the time to build those solid relationships, people sort of will come along with me when I wherever I go on my work and however my content kind of shifts. So but yeah, probably a few of the biggest pivotal moments would have been in 2013 or 2014. I was featured by Instagram, and I'd been hustling so hard to try and grow, and I was probably at like 8,000 followers. And that was back in the day where it was like if you hit 10 you got the K next to your number, like 10K, but you didn't get the K unless you hit 10,000. So I was like, gotta get to 10,000. And then one day I woke up and I just had it, my Instagram had exploded. I was like, what is happening? And it was just that Instagram shared one of my photos from Hobbiton in New Zealand on their feed, which was and it was at the time where like the Hobbiton location didn't even have an Instagram. Like most of these people in New Zealand didn't even have Instagram, and it was just a crappy iPhone photo that I had taken. And so I saw that. I woke up, I got probably like 5,000 followers in a day. And then I made sure that everything I posted after that for like a week was just Hobbiton. And I had this crazy engagement for such a long time. So that was really pivotal for me in terms of like just taking a massive jump on Instagram and getting featured more and more. I'm trying to think. I remember a couple of years ago, or maybe a year after that, I got hired by Starbucks, and I'm wondering now if it was connect because they had seen that Lipton iced tea ad. And I remember at the time they were like, "Okay, we have this campaign. Like, what would your rate be?" And I was like, "Holy fuck, I have no idea. Like, what's my rate for this?" I have like no idea. And so like I just went like balls out, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do 10 things for you. So I like wrote out 10 things, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna ask for $10,000. This is crazy. Like no one gets any money out of anyone, and I'm gonna ask for $10,000. This is ridiculous. So I offered to do like this crazy amount of work, pitched 10K, and they were like, yep, sure, no problem. And I was just like, oh, I could have asked for more. Like I could have done so much more. I was like, they're never gonna say yes. And I pitched it for like sort of, I think like 3 months, you know, as opposed to just doing one thing. I really upsold them to this into this bigger project, which is what I do. You sort of, and this is a sales and marketing tactic that like I didn't really know at the time. It's so much of my success came from me stumbling upon things by accident and just being like really perceptive and looking back and like, oh, that worked. I'm going to try that, you know? And that was a big that was a big aha moment for me where I was like, of course I would rather have $10,000 than $1,000, and I'd rather have 3 months of work versus 2 weeks of work. So from then I always started to try and upsell, like pitch up into doing longer term partnerships, taking on fewer partners that I work with and trying to just build longer term relationships with people. And I still do that now. And I mean, sometimes if it's new people, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do a little taste, like show you what I can do, and then, you know, hit them to go into something longer. But that was a huge moment for me in changing my income. And actually another moment which was really sad was like I had just moved to Wanaka, New Zealand, and I Instagram was getting really big, and I organized this massive Insta Meet. It was New Zealand's first Insta Meet, like biggest Insta Meet. We brought over like Chris Burkhardt, all these big photographers. I did weeks and weeks of work unpaid for this. And then at the last moment, the Wanaka Tourism Board was like, nope, you're not on this anymore, get out. And like booted me off the project. Yeah. And I didn't get to be part of anything that I had organized. I've never publicly talked about this, but it was awful. I was
What
heartbroken.
the hell?
Yeah, I know. They didn't like that, like, because I had organized all the media around it, and like the media were interviewing me, and apparently they didn't like that, even though at the time they didn't even know what Instagram was. And I was devastated. It was like my first massive disappointment. I almost left Wanaka. I went and traveled for 2 months overseas because I was so heartbroken. Like, Chris Burkhardt was my hero. I wanted to go camping with him. It was like the one thing I wanted to do that would have made it work, made it worth all that work that I had done. And I had done it all for free because I was like, this will be an example of like what I can use to pitch other stuff down the track. Like, it's going to be worth the value, blah, blah, blah. And it took like getting just absolutely stabbed in the back that I was like, after 2 months and I like came back, I was like, okay, putting my foot down. I'm not doing shit for free anymore. Like, this is not fair. This is not cool. And immediately my income just went straight through the roof because I finally found some integrity and self-worth and figured out like how to take my work seriously and put value dollars behind it. And this is not an uncommon story. I'm sure this has happened to so many people. But that was a huge moment for me, of like a big slap in the face of like, okay, you need to take this seriously. And you're not a blogger, air quotes, anymore. Like, you're a creator, you're a publisher, you're a business, like, act accordingly. And it was a bummer that it was something that sad that took that to happen. But that was a huge moment in terms of like, until then I had just been like, absolutely scraping by, and then after that it was like, whew, oh yes, I can actually earn real money.
I had a really similar thing. I was listening to a podcast, I think with Caroline from Why Travel Blog, and I know you wrote for them for a little while, but she was like, I decided to just say no if something didn't pay what I wanted. And I was so worried that I wasn't going to get any work anymore after that, or that I was never going to get opportunities. And then the opposite happened. And I was like, okay, well, I've been writing freelance articles for $50 an article all summer long. What if I'm just like, no, I only want to take things that pay more? And it worked.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
I actually am curious, and I think, maybe this is just an opinion thing, but like, when do you think it is right to start charging, like appropriate to, instead of building your portfolio, maybe doing a few things for free? At what point are you like, okay, this is the time when I don't do anything for free anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's sort of two ways I see like monetizing. One is like through your influence, and if you have enough influence and clout, like capitalizing on that, which, there is it until you have the numbers, you can't fake it. So it's not worth charging. But then in the meantime, what you can do is create content. And that's kind of like what I would be focusing on if I was still trying to grow. So like, perhaps if I didn't have enough of a following, I'd be like, okay, I'll do, this famil or this trip for free, but, I'll give you like 20 joint copyright images, and then charge a photography day rate, or be like, okay, I can see that your tourism board has this blog. Why don't I write 5 blog posts for you? Why don't I do some Instagram takeovers for you? Why don't I do some marketing for you? And try and figure out, like, dig through their resources, see what they're doing wrong, what they could be doing better. Pretty much everyone is like, there's never enough people to be doing what people need. And just it's that kind of up to you to figure out like what can you offer to tip them over. And also, like, another one of my strategies is I make people say no to me 3 times. Like, I'm like, I'm pretty pushy sometimes, like, not in an annoying way, but it's like, now that like everyone wants to be an influencer, like, popular places will get like a dozen pitches a day, and most of them are terrible. So like, often it's easy for a brand to just say no to everyone, and then just sort of figure out from there who they want to work with, and reach out accordingly. So like, I don't like, and that even happens to me now, like, all the time. So I'm just like, well, actually, like, what about this, And I always try to get people on a call, because I find if you can talk to them, it just takes it one step further of them like remembering who you are, putting a face to a name, And you can really start to dig around and like ask questions and figure out what they're working on. And most, maybe they really don't have a budget, or it's actually they just like are overwhelmed, and one person is doing the job of like four, and you just need to figure out what you can do to help them. So Becky says, do you have to wait for brands to reach out to you, or do you pitch them as well? I pitch most people, actually. Like I actually don't get a lot of pitches anymore, to be honest. Which I don't mind, because most of the time it's not right. So I tend to find the ones that I like want to work with, and I dig around until I can figure out who's the right person to talk to, and just like shove my way in, really. Like, and sometimes like I straight up cold pitch, like if I can't find, like if it's a big brand, that it's going to be their marketing will be outsourced to an agency. So trying to figure out who the agency is, and then who the contact is of the agency. And I usually don't send a pitch. I just say, hey, I'm Liz. I run this massive travel blog. I'm looking to speak to who's the best person to speak to about, marketing opportunity, digital marketing opportunities. Can you pass along their email and try and get the email of the right person, and then hit them up. And then I also try to pitch to brands that I already love and use. And I mean, this is something everyone does all the time, and I don't mind if it's a product that I really love that I've bought, and then I'm sharing it like naturally. I'm trying to like look around at something I have that I've done that for, and then build a partnership from there. And I've had that happen a lot of times. Reaching out to people that way. Trying to think who I'm doing it with now. I literally have like one partnership right now, so I don't have like heaps on the table.
That's cool though. Like I was always under the impression that cold pitching didn't work, and it's not something I've done a lot of. So I am really happy to hear your perspective, where you're like, no, if I want it, I just go get it. And I want to be a little more persistent, actually, and see if that works for me too.
Oh, and I reply to like all the press releases that I think are interesting. Because I get
really good tips.
Like I just did one to BMW in New Zealand the other day, and they totally poo-pooed me. Like I got her on a call, and she was just like, listen, we're still just figuring out what we're doing right now. Like, and afterwards I pitched her again after, and I was like, can I send you a proposal? And she's like, not right now, but I will remember you. And like, so, but I'm gonna keep trying, and it's like, it's so important that even when you get no's, like when you've built a brand that's yours, it can feel really personal if someone says no to you, or even worse if someone says something negative to you. But at the end of the day, it's kind of just business, and you have to like let it go. And relationships is the most important thing, and that's something you can't buy or fix or build easily. So like, even if I get people that are jerks, I'm like, okay, no problem. Like, please let me know if things change moving forward, and then chase them up in a year. And I always keep a running list of people that I've worked with, and I like follow up with them all the time. I always follow up with another monetization tip is I always follow up at the end of the financial year. It's different in New Zealand, Australia, and the States. But the last month of a financial year pre-COVID, I would email everyone and be like, hey, I'm going to do some last minute like promos. Like, you can have 20 photos for the price of 10. If end of financial year sale kind of thing, and see if they have any money left in their budgets. And I've gotten heaps of work that way, to the point now that I literally get emails from people I've worked with so many times that I have literally gotten this more than a couple of times. Like, hey, I've got an extra $5,000 I need to use this month. Like, can we do something? Invoice me. Like, that's how you build relationships. And I've had that happen multiple times. From people.
Wow, well done. I'm like,
yeah. Yeah. And it's because I always treat people like friends. Like I build relationships with everyone, and I stay with them, and I make it genuine. I make sure I approach everyone I work with as a friend and as a person, and not as something I can get from them. And it's great. It's like a really, I can't recommend that strategy enough. Like I just got an email today from like a girl that, like, I work with De Beers group around their charities, and like she looked after them in London, but she left, and I haven't talked to her in months, and she just sent me an email about a different project with who she's working with now, and it's that kind of stuff.
100%. They all talk to each other. You can get blacklisted real quick, but if you build those relationships and people know that you're reliable and you're going to make them look good to their superiors, like, why not go back to you?
Yeah. Yeah, and just make everyone's job easy for them. Yeah, like don't make people jump through hoops.
Totally. Teresa asked a question I almost always ask on these calls. Did you have an 11th hour moment where you were like, I can't even believe, like, I can't keep doing this, or like, I'm just like one camel or like one straw in the camel's back away from just shoving this all and getting a 9 to 5 or something?
Yeah, and it's pretty sad. Like I've talked about it a little bit, I've alluded to it. I haven't gone in depth to it because I'm actually like I'm working on a book, like a memoir right now, and that's like kind of going to be what I go into. But a year ago, January 20 wait, what is it? No, today's 2020, so January 2019. Sorry, where are we? But basically by January 2019, I was so burnt out and so depressed and so unhappy that I was like suicidal. It was really bad. The November before, it was in the news. I don't know if any of you guys saw this, but I had been hiking alone in New Zealand on this really remote island, and I came across 150 beaching pilot whales, and it was the most traumatic thing I've ever been through. And they all died in front of me, and I couldn't do anything to save them. It was really messed up, and I think that experience released something in me around like control. Like I had been trying to control my life so long and just gripping it like this, and living at an impossible level. You know, I was doing 100 flights a year. I would wake up and I didn't know where I was. You know, I couldn't sleep. I had horrible insomnia. I was mean. I was starting to be really mean to everyone. I was always snappy and irritable, and like this experience where like it was something so far out of my control, it just like snapped something in me, and I was just spiraled and became really depressed. And I canceled as many jobs as I could, but I had sort of like 4 huge campaigns I couldn't get out of over that December, January. The last one was in Italy, and I just remember like I couldn't even like get up in the morning. Like I was in Italy in the mountains, like your dream job, getting paid boatloads of money, and I was just like, I literally can't open my eyes. Like I do not want to be here. I don't want to be. How can I live this life that I've created? Like I don't want it anymore. Like it was really bad, and it was all I could do to finish the job. And I flew home, canceled everything else, went straight to my doctor, and I was like, I need therapy now. And just like had to really reevaluate my life, you know? And I realized that like the level I was living was just totally unsustainable. And it was making me really unhappy. And you don't like build this life because you want to be miserable. You build this life and you take all these risks because you want to be happy, and travel makes you happy. Sharing stories makes you happy. So I had to really sit back and do a lot of work on myself, like cancel a lot of jobs, like learn to say no to things, which was so hard. I would never say no to stuff. I'd always try and make it work because I had a massive like people pleasing problem. And yeah, it took me like a year, and it was really funny because like only around like March of this year was I starting to come right. Like I pretty much just slept from like January till March this year. Like I didn't do a lot. Like I was just recovering from everything. I had to nap every day. Like I was just so, it's like when you travel as much and are working as hard as this level, it's like you're constantly in this state of like of reactiveness. You know, you're constantly like, you know, gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do this, and you just can never actually like relax. And so it took months and months of me to like come right and like not be like have a meeting and just feel overcome with anxiety and not able to like get out of my room, you know? And then COVID happened, and I was like, oh, well, now's the time to change things. Like I was just starting to feel normal and just about to start like pitching and being like, maybe I can start traveling again. And then nope. So, and it was really, in a way it was really good because like I've learned to like accept whatever life throws at me from that experience. And now I'm like, you know, in the space of like a week, I lost all my work, you know, in March and April, all for the foreseeable future. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what do I do now? And I kind of just was depressed for like a week. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do something. This is an opportunity. You know, this is the universe giving me a chance to do the things that I never made time for because I was so busy with the hustle, you know? So yeah, that was probably like the biggest 11th hour. Like I look back on it and I'm like, how was I even alive? You know? like it was just, you know, when I was getting sick all the time, I'd get like had so many injuries I had to deal with. Like it was like I was like falling to pieces and just putting like tape on myself to like keep going, you know, and walk through it. So yeah, that was really, really awful experience. And I look at it now and I'm like, I don't want to go back to that place. So I'm going to do the hard work on myself to make sure that I don't get back into that bad headspace. Yeah.
Yeah. Self-care when you're anybody, but when you're an entrepreneur and like all of the decisions fall to you, all of the like negative commentary falls to you, like all of the things are like totally on you. It can, I totally relate to so much that you've said throughout this thing.
Yeah. And it's like,
so,
I had no boundaries. Like I had to learn to watch TV again. Like how
me
depressing is
too.
that?
I've
I was
gotten
like,
really into
okay.
Netflix though.
Yeah, I'm like, my doctor was like, you have got to stop working at 6 o'clock. And I was like, but I work better at night. And she was like, no, because I get so activated that I wouldn't sleep, you know? So I had to like learn to like turn off all my devices and just like watch a movie and read and stuff for like hours before bed instead of doing all my work. And yeah, that was pretty weird.
So how are you pivoting now?
Um um so now, okay, I haven't really announced this yet, but basically I've like I'm working on a book, which is what I've been wanting to do for so long, but I never thought I could actually do it, so I never tried. Because you know when you have those dreams that are so big and you put them on a pedestal and it's almost like you can't achieve them. That's like where I was with like writing a book. I was like, it's my deepest, darkest thing, and if I try it and fail, then you know, but I really was like, this is an opportunity. When else am I, and also because the New Zealand government looks after us. So like I lost all my work within a week. And then a week later I got $7,000 from the government for like 3 months stipend. And then they keep extending it. So they're just paying everyone like weekly, you know, of like to survive. Yeah. So I was like, when else am I going to have, literally can't travel. I don't have any work, but I can still afford like my rent and my costs. Like this is the time to write. So that's the one thing, that was one big thing that I've been working on. And the other one is I actually just signed to take the lease over of this space where I live in New Zealand, and I'm going to open up like a pop-up shop, and I'm going to sell houseplants and do events and things there. Just so random.
I literally have 60 house plants. I had 0 in March.
Oh my God, they're so good, eh? And yeah, I've been planting and gardening for so long, and then it makes me so happy. And I was like, I'm just gonna try this. So I signed like a shop lease, and I don't know how to run a shop. Like I don't know how to like take people's money and customer service and everything. But I'm like, I thought of like a brand and everything, and I've been on my free time like building this totally separate brand about plants, and it's so much fun to take all these lessons I've learned from blogging and just chuck it into something super different. Yeah,
I
so that's like
fantasize
what I'm
about
working on right
becoming a
now.
plant influencer. I'm like, they never have to leave home.
Yeah, you should. I mean, I bet you get really good plants where you are. Like we're really limited in New Zealand, but man, it's awesome. I love it so much.
Teresa wants to know, now that you're booed up, will it change your solo female travel brand? Because she's married, and by the way, like I feel like people should solo travel whether they're single or not. But what do you think, Liz?
Well, I was really caught up with the booed up thing. I've never heard that before. Yeah, I guess it's really crazy. I have like a partner now because I've always been alone and always traveled solo. And I still am gonna like travel solo. And I've already started like around New Zealand. And it's cool because like my partner and I have like totally different jobs. Like he's one of New Zealand's best chefs and has like this pop-up kitchen. So we can do trips together, which is really fun. But he's older and like he has kids. So it's really nice that we've come together now because it's like we're still like really independent, and when we can do stuff together it's really awesome. But like yeah, I'm still gonna travel a lot by myself. And I did, even when we were together, like I went to Botswana on a job without him. And yeah, I don't know, like I made sure I'm pretty clear that like me traveling alone isn't a manifestation of me not wanting to travel with him. It's that and even just like moving in with him was massive for me because I've never lived with someone before, and he understands that. So I I've been pretty clear about setting boundaries about like, you know, I need my alone time. Like you have, it's not about you. It's that I'm an introvert and this is how I am. And I've just found that it works because I'm like ridiculously communicative with him about it. Like I tell him everything I'm feeling, like just word vomit it all out. Cause I've done so much therapy and coaching. So I just tell him everything. So there's like no space for him to imagine that it's like me not wanting to be with him, you know, but it's pretty funny. Like I like just learning to share is like weird. Like I don't know how to do that, you know, and like learning to tell him like, oh, I'm going to do this today and just and telling him before I do it. So just communication. But yeah, I don't feel like a bad partner. If he wants a stay-at-home wife, he picked the wrong person.
Word.
Yeah.
Shay really loves your unique personal style of writing. She's wondering if you get nervous when you put it out there in such a personal way. And I know that you've had a lot of like, you used to do, I don't know if you still do this, these posts where you like kind of post your best hate comments of the year. And I remember just being like, damn, she gets it. I get it now too, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, because I think I can tell you that like my success has come from my vulnerability and my ability to be real and raw, and that's my style and it's what works for me. And I know that it's not the same for everyone that's like making stuff and putting it out in the world. But yeah, I do get nervous. I don't know if I get nervous anymore. Like what's hard now is like I'll share things that perhaps like embarrass me or like brought me shame. But I think having the ability to do that is where the growth is. So like I have learned enough to sit in the discomfort of that. And I don't do it to be self-indulgent. And everything that I am vulnerable about is that I do it knowing that it can help people. And that's why I do it. And if people don't like it, they can go follow someone else, you know? Like I've really learned that. I'm like, I'm not like, I'm not here for people to tell me what to be doing and how I should be feeling or whatever. Like, and in some ways it's actually kind of like abrasive. Like I've noticed like I perhaps like piss people off that way now, and I don't even care anymore because I'm like, for my own mental health, like I take the time to make all of this content, put all of this stuff out on the internet for free. And like you come into my space and tell me how I should be. And I think it's a particularly it's about women as well. Like I feel like people want women to be a certain way, and you know what, fuck them. Like I'm not here for that. And that means sometimes of me like putting my foot down, and me putting my foot down makes me really uncomfortable because it's not how I am, because I'm normally a pleaser. But I think it's really important to do that. So that's probably the hardest part, and I faff a lot about it, like back and forth, like, oh, should I do this? Oh, I don't know. But I'm going to, because I think it proves a point, and I think people need to learn to talk to people better online and in a less toxic way, you know?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I appreciate that you're like, that you have that perspective, and I'm definitely working towards that too. Especially with like everything going on lately, you can't possibly not piss someone off. So kind of knowing that and accepting it has been really freeing. I'm just like, you're upset. You need someone to be mad at because you're in pain. So I guess it's needed.
Yeah. I feel bad for people that like go at me for stuff, you know? I'm like, I genuinely feel bad for that people like that. And yeah, it's really sad. Yeah, and I think I don't know, I want to write about it. I haven't done it yet, but like I really hate this whole like cancel culture that everyone talks about, you know, like you mess up once and you're canceled and you're over. And I hate that because it doesn't allow for growth. You know, like I'm a better person now because I fucked up so many times over the years, and I like saw what I did and I learned from it and I worked through it, and there was a lot of shame in that, and I can see it and I've grown. But you have to allow people to do that, you know, otherwise no one will change ever, and the systems will never change. So yeah, I really like, even how I talk to people online has changed, because I would call people out in the past for stuff, and now I think about it and I'm like, you know, maybe there's like a better way that's like, hey, have you thought about this? Like, you know, I'm not attacking you or whatever, but like, you know, trying to give people the chance to see things and grow themselves, just how I've done. And so when I see people going viral for things, you know, things they've said, all that kind of stuff, it actually makes me really sad, because it's like, you know, people, you don't deserve to have your life ruined over something like that. And it doesn't allow you to like own up to your mistakes and grow. So I hate that. That's probably what I get nervous about too, especially now, you know, and it's like, so I, even now when people are, I'm getting, you know, like, you know, I did a lot of Black Lives Matter posts, and I know I could do better, and I'm still trying to figure out what more I can do, and people like call me out on it. And, you know, my first response is like, oh, fuck you. But no, I'm not going to say that. Like, I have to sit there and be like, no, thank you for holding me accountable. I'm working on it, you know, and just learning to be like, because people don't like it when, you know, if they're picking a fight with you and stuff like that. It's yeah, it's interesting. It's just learning how to like interact with people online in a less toxic way, I guess.
Yeah, it takes practice. And for me, I often need to like cool down before I say
Yeah.
anything. And by the time I've cooled down, quite often one of my followers has already jumped in and said something on my behalf. And I'm like, oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I don't have to say anything.
Yeah. 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 I get that a lot too. And yeah, for all kind of stuff. Cause I put my opinions out there and things like that. And, but that's part of like my brand, you know, and I'm using the bigger I've gotten, the more I'm involved in this industry. I really think about my obligations and my responsibility. And I really care about responsible tourism, sustainable tourism, you know, being a better person, looking after wildlife, you know, doing all that kind of stuff. And I like make sure like that means I have to say things, and I do. And I try and use my voice that way. And sure, that might piss off a few people, but like I don't miss them, and it makes people respect me more. And that building that relationship with your community is so powerful. And that's what, like, then when I do like sponsored campaigns, I get such a much higher conversion than people who are perhaps bigger than me, because I've built such a tight knit like relationship with people, and they know that they can trust my word. And that's really important. So, and that's the kind of stuff I would focus on if you're working on like growth, is building like real relationships. It's not about the numbers at all. You can monetize when you're small if it's like the right niche, you know, which I'm sure you've talked heaps about. But
We've definitely talked about that. Also, now that I'm on the brand side of things and I have been like sending things to people so that they can like help me grow Wander Babe clothing, I'm seeing now how different it is when someone has a smaller but super engaged community versus these people who have huge followings and don't convert much at all. And I'm just like, wow, I
yeah,
get like the inside peek now.
yeah. And it's like, it's probably really interesting, because, and also like when you're working with people like that, again, that's why I try to keep my partnerships to just a few, so it's not like, you know, otherwise if I'm just putting a new branded thing up every day, then it's like, well, just another ad, you know, or it's like it's more about me and not about the thing that I'm selling or whatever. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And even like when you were talking about like you know, if anyone else emailed me about a clothing brand, I just straight into my trash folder. But like, because you're doing a partnership and we're friends, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going to support you, you know. And those are those relationships that, it would have been easy to be like, well, I charge $1,000 per Instagram post, but like, you know, whatever. It's like at the end of the day, like you have to cultivate your friendships and your community. Because like now, like, you know, when the world has changed so much just in the span of 3 months, like relationships are what matter. Networking is what matters. And yeah, it's really funny. And I know that my success has come from that so much, in my ability to network with people. I have a business coach, and she made me do this exercise like a year ago about like, I would get all these awards and get all these things, but I would never sit with my success. Like my success made me really uncomfortable. So I would just like dismiss it. So I'd be like, oh, I was on the New York Times. Yeah, cool, whatever. It was just because they found me. Like I'm the one they found on Google, you know, like I got this partnership only because I was like the first on the list or something, you know, like I literally could not sit there and be like, I got this because of my own hard work. I don't know if any of you guys ever feel like that, but like, I'm like that all, you know, it's really difficult for me to like, be like, yes, I'm great. You know, ugh, I hate that so much. So my coach made me do this exercise every day for like months, where I had to like write out one of my achievements, and I had to write out why it was me. And actually all of it, I realized as I was doing this exercise, that it all came down to my like networking ability and the fact that I build relationships really well. Isn't that interesting? Like my partnerships, my media coverage, like everything just came down from like just relationships with people, which is hilarious because I hate people and I'm really introverted. But But yeah, I think it's like, yeah, just thinking about it like from that way. Anyway, just something
It's
to consider.
it's a relationship business. I'm the same way. And I think this is a super common thing where it's really hard for people to acknowledge their achievements and the things that they're really amazing at. And I don't know why it's so uncomfortable for most of us. I think because it
It
feels
is.
like we're boasting somehow, but like you're boasting to yourself. So yeah, celebrating the wins is so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I've had to really learn how to do that. And it's also particularly hard because Australia and New Zealand has this like thing called tall poppy syndrome where they don't like people that do that. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a whole other like thing. But yeah, anyway.
so speaking though about those relationships with your readers, at some point you started to develop your own like products, and your boot camp is one that you've been doing for years, and I know you just did like took it virtual. So I'd love to, Teresa also asked about affiliate marketing. I'm actually kind of curious if you could break down for us like how your income has changed over the years, when you knew it was time to release your own products, and
Mhm.
yeah, if you want to touch on the affiliate thing too.
Yeah, I started, I mean, probably like most bloggers, like I started affiliates years ago, and I noticed I could get really high conversions. I would pick affiliates like Bluehost, where you get like $100 a sale, like things that had higher payouts. Um, and again, like my strategy is messy. Like it's not, I'm like, oh, I could probably put some affiliates in this post because I can see it ranks well. I'll do that. And I would yeah, and I would work it in that way. So my focus with affiliates now is just ones that pay out well, like high paying ones versus like, $5, $10, $20 a sale. So, and the most of that comes around from like online courses and coaching and bigger spends. And then, so when I started doing affiliates, and then when I signed up like with Mediavine with the ad networks, like that just changed my income drastically because I went up just thousands of dollars a month, just passive income without doing a lot of work, which was really pivotal, but it's like all crashed down now with COVID, which is a bummer. And but probably the bulk of my income for the past probably 5 years has just come from big partnerships. Like I got to a point where I was like, if I was working outside of New Zealand, like I wouldn't charge less than $5,000 for a job, and I would frequently charge more. And then, and depending on, in New Zealand was a bit different just because you're working with a lot smaller budgets here, and I wanted to like look after people in New Zealand in a different way, so I would do smaller partnerships with them. Yeah, so probably a huge, maybe like 2/3 of my income was just partnerships and pitches. And that, and these are big ones, not like $500 kind of thing, like 3 months of stuff. And then, yeah, that was a big part of it. I would do a lot of public speaking. And then when I launched the boot camp, which was this, it is this really cool live event that I run with Australia's first professional Instagrammer, Lauren Bath, and Australia's sort of leading travel editor, Georgia Rickard. We would run these in-person events over 2 days where we teach people from ground up how to build a career in travel, like no BS, like this is exactly what you have to do. And we've done 6 of those events in Australia and New Zealand. And then now we've sort of watered it down a bit and have been doing an online version called Basecamp, which is really cool. And then we upsell people from Basecamp into like 6-week, 12-week mentoring courses, and with exact ways how to build your sort of your online business, really. But at the end of last year, I actually like sold my shares of it, and now I just work with them as a contractor, just because it wasn't, deep down wasn't what I wanted to be doing. Like I love doing the events and I love the education part and the speaking, but I didn't like the all the work that went behind it, because it was like way too much work for stuff that I wasn't super passionate about. So I still work with them really closely, but not as like an owner of the company anymore, which is pretty cool. But that was a huge change with my income as well, because we went from like, we would run like one big event per year, with 300 people there, live in-person events, and that was really profitable when we were doing it, and it was really cool. Yeah. So again, like I kind of just like play around a lot with earning money. I've done like like 2 years ago, probably the biggest job I ever did was with Mercedes-Benz in New Zealand. And, you know, that turned in from like a small project to a big marketing partnership to like me shooting like their catalog of images for this thing. And I ended up getting photos on billboards and stuff. And that ended up just being like massive. And again, it's all the relationship building and like being flexible with prices and stuff, and just seeing an opportunity and going for it, not waiting around for someone to email me with an opportunity. I met Mercedes at an event, like super hungover off of like a 16-hour flight from Dubai. And I just like emailed them and I was like, let's have a call. So
I'm inspired by this.
yeah, I know, like now that I say it all out loud, I'm like, man, that's like pretty ballsy. But
You have
yeah,
to be though. Like this is just a ballsy industry. You need to,
yeah,
or you know, ovaries or whatever.
yeah.
um,
And yeah, and just being confident. And the thing is I've learned like confidence in my work, you know, and like, and I'm confident in what I can deliver. Like it took years to figure out exactly what that package is and how I can evolve it and grow it, you know. And the industry's changed a lot. Like I don't know about you, but like my traffic, like at one point, like I was getting 500,000 like views a month, and now I'm like dropped dramatically, and I'm having to really like reevaluate like how I'm running my site and like pivoting. And like, you know, right now I'm not doing any travel stuff. I'm just focusing on storytelling. Someone asked about like outsourcing, and I've got like, I just started, I finally wrote out like a pitch guide of the stuff that I wanted. It took me ages. And so now I've got new writers writing for me, and it's all very storytelling based. And, you know, I've had VAs for a while helping me with admin and things like that. And I definitely am a big fan of outsourcing everything that you can in a real way, and paying people for what it's worth as well, you know. And like I can see that my time is really valuable for me, and if I can get someone to do it for me, that's great.
Agreed. Teresa's curious about your photography tips, how you've grown with that art.
I think just practice, practice, practice. And I was really lucky. Like I was doing all those Instagram jobs, and I'm a pretty creative person to begin with, so I kind of had an eye already. But like when I did all these Instagram jobs with people, like I worked really hard to learn from them, and I asked heaps of questions, and pretty much these pros taught me so many tricks and tips. And then if it was things I didn't know, I just upskilled watching YouTube videos, photography videos, and just watching what people are doing and not trying to copy it, but like getting inspired, you know. Like even now I'm shooting a lot more with like a really long lens, and like, you know, getting more comfortable shooting at a lower depth of field, and having like image, you know, like colors in front of it, and just playing, like shooting straight into the light, like just always experimenting, you know. I'm always experimenting with it. And yeah, clicking away. I'm definitely one of those people, I'll take like 50 shots and then use one kind of thing. Like, as opposed to just like, ooh, okay, go, you know. And I always sort of like take like the standard shot. Like if I'm looking at something, like, okay, I'm taking this, like I'm looking at it, take a photo, and then I'm like, okay, what can I do to make it a little more dynamic? So I'll like get on my knees and shoot with the grass in front of it, or like climb up on something and shoot down, you know, and really just play. Like I always take what I think would be the standard photo, and then I try and go a couple steps further and see what I can get out of it. And then I got to a point where I was so burned out. I don't think I picked up my camera between like January and like April this year, you know. And I sold off all my old gear that wasn't really using, and it's only just now where I'm like really picking it up again and trying to just feel inspired versus like feeling like I have to deliver stuff.
I feel you on that. Does anyone have, I can switch to the gallery view and just allow whoever has a question to pop in and ask it popcorn style. Liz, I know we've been on for like an hour, so when you need to jump, please let us know.
Yeah, sure. I'm fine for now. Yeah, please let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to talk to you guys.
And you can just unmute yourself and ask it.
I have a question about photography. Do you think that it's important to have good photography equipment, or like with cell phones these days, do you think people can do shoots and sponsorships with cell phone photos?
Yeah, I definitely think phones are so amazing now, and you can do a lot with them, and you can edit and take really good shots with phones. But if I'm doing jobs where I have to give photos, like I definitely will be shooting raw files, DSLR, full frame camera. And at the end of the day, phones will never match a nice camera. So it kind of just depends on what you want to offer and what your brand would be around that. But I like really resisted. I was like, for ages and ages on Instagram, I was like, I'm iPhone only. Like, I'm so proud of being like just on my phone. And it just, I was getting to the point where I was on these jobs and I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't like compete with this. And I'm considering myself as a pro. So I have to, level it up. And I really resisted upgrading to like a full, I don't know if you can see it like behind me, like a full like DSLR kit. But there's just, you can't fake what some of these cameras can do, and it's just incredible. And because media now is so visual, I think it's really important. If you're like just starting out, I wouldn't like go out and blow it on like a massive kit. Like you can like, I would pick like maybe something that's refurbished or like used, or like a mid-range like camera, and then invest in a really nice lens. Like the lens is more important than the body most of the time. And just practice, get comfortable shooting in manual, understand like how light works, and just start to play and have fun with it, and then upgrade. But like definitely like I know I get a lot of work because I have the photography skills behind it, and I also like a good chunk of my income comes just from random people wanting to like license images and stuff from me. And when it's like that, it's like, like I'm shooting in a raw file like format, like it can be blown up well, so I definitely would recommend learning about it just because we're so visual these days. Becky, what's your niche? I'm just reading this thread.
Bike travel. So like DSLR.
Yeah. No, but like I would just do like a GoPro or something. And GoPros now are amazing.
Yeah.
I have this really good friend in New Zealand called Bear Kiwi, and he does everything with GoPros, and he's got massive sponsorships. Yeah.
I will say, even on like a 9-day backpacking trip, when my pack is 60 pounds, my DSLR and an extra lens are with me. And I know it's ridiculous, but like, it's coming.
Yeah, it sucks. It is what it is. And like, yeah, I'm the same. Like I do heaps of trekking and stuff, and I've got like, I'll go light, but like I'm still gonna bring like my big camera. And a lot of times I'll bring a tripod because it's like, if you're tramping, like you'll end up in these places with beautiful stars, and you just never know.
Yeah, I don't bring the deodorant, but I do bring the tripod.
Yeah. And you can like get really light stuff, but like, man, everything is visual. Come on, like you've gotta like just do your best. But like if you're like biking, like yeah, that's ridiculous. But like if you for me, like I also see the value in like I'll hire someone to take photos of me sometimes, if I really need it or something like that, and just be like work out a deal with someone and be like, hey, like could you spend half a day taking high res photos of me on my bike or something, and you can use those. Like there's a lot of value in investing in yourself and in your brand. Yeah, for sure. Anyone else?
I have a question. Another question.
Yeah.
I know you and Kristen are both insanely successful on Instagram. Do you think that's crucial in order to be a successful travel blogger?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's kind of just capitalizing on a trend, and just another way to reach more people, So it's just a way of reaching people. And also like Instagram is just such a different place than it was 5 years ago. Like it was really easy 5 years ago to get featured on the top page and get like thousands of followers. And now it's different. And but it's still like I still really believe in it as like a community-based app. And even if it's like really small, it doesn't matter. And it's such a great way to like like directly talk to people. And I don't, when I try to talk to everyone that messages me. And then when I'm being really proactive, I like message heaps of people. And actually that's how I got pretty big in New Zealand. There was like a year where I like just dominated everything on Instagram that was related to New Zealand. Like I would like talk to everyone under the New Zealand hashtag. I would slide into their DMs, like just talk to everyone. And it's really cool. You've got this like direct relationship. I know, to the point where I would like be walking down the street and people would yell out their car window, "Hey, you that girl from Instagram." Like, but then again, New Zealand only has like 5 people. So it's not that hard. But yeah, I think it's a great way to cultivate relationships. And it doesn't have to be like powerful photos. Like, come on, there's so many massive people on Instagram that aren't like, it's not visual. They're like coaches, and like, that instead of putting photos, they're designing these like little banners in Canva that, that has an inspirational quote. They're playing with like IGTV and putting that in their feed and stuff. And that's like, it doesn't have to just be like this beautiful grid at all. That's like totally a misconception. You just need to figure out like what your brand is and what you're all about, and have like your page reflect that. And also you can like reshare so many other people's stuff. And like there's so many great online tools of like free images and free resources and stuff. And just go for it. And it's more on making it a manifestation of like your brand, I think. But it's a great way to like directly talk to people, just like with a blog, like building your email subscriber database is like this great like straight connection that you have with people. But if it's not your thing, I'm also a big advocate. If it's not your thing, don't push it. Put your energy somewhere else. Like,
I actually do like it. I just don't have time.
Yeah. Do you like micromanage your schedule? And like, you should put just like 4 hours in your schedule for like one day and be like, this is Instagram time.
I've
like,
started timing myself, so maybe I'll have to start doing that with Instagram as well. I'm like timing myself 30 minutes only Pinterest, 30 minutes only blog.
Yeah. And it's like use those apps where you can like plan your grid and write out your captions. With my plant side hustle, I've just done all of that for months, and I did it in one evening, and then I just go in every like day and check it and interact with all the other plant influencers. Yeah, but yeah, I think it's important to put your energy where you're enjoying it. Yeah, don't hate it. Anyone else have any questions? I'm looking at the chat. Anyone? Eden, Shay, Kristen?
I really want to know about it when your plant pop-up is there, and I want to go take like a plant influencer photo in your pop-up. So when I can go back to New Zealand, let me know.
Yeah, it's really cool
when I can get there.
I'm basically it's going to be called Node, which is really cool because the node is on the plant where like the leaf comes from, and it's such a minimalist, like such a trend word. I'm basically setting the space up like every wall is just like a sick Instagram shot, just like a sick photo. And that's why I feel like it's going to be successful. Like my strategy is I'm making it so trendy and Instagrammy that everyone else is going to market it for me. Yeah. And like, every photo is like, those cafes that you see in Bali and all that kind of stuff, just like making it like that, making it quirky and beautiful. And it's just so fun to do something like with my hands and like in real life. But yeah, it's really funny. I made a logo in Canva, which is one of my favorite apps to use, Canva.
Totally.
Yeah. And so I made my own logo, and I've got like a sticker on the window saying like coming soon. And that's like all I have. I have like the lease and this coming soon sticker. And now I'm just like, oh my God, what do I do now?
I get it. Yeah. Selling physical products is really different, especially with a brick and mortar business. So it'll be fun to follow your journey. Are you posting about it or?
Yeah. So actually I've decided I'm going to share like the journey of me doing it, like the behind the scenes, and make it like I hope, in a couple ways, like showing people that I'm trying something totally new, and I don't know if it's going to work or not. Like, and I'm also hoping that like, I want people to be part of it. So New Zealand is really community based, so I'm hoping people are going to be like, oh, my brother's a wood carver, he can make this for you, like this person has this, and like make it really like a collective kind of space, and have artists and other people like part of it. And what, Monica, you grew up in a greenhouse? I'm so jealous. Yeah, so I decided to like, I'm gonna share the building of it as like behind the scenes. And because I think people, yeah, I love watching like people build houses and build things, and it's pretty fun. And I got this massive Hoya plant off this lady's grandma. It's literally like 3 meters long. It's huge. And I'm gonna put it on, the whole wall will be like a plant, one of the walls. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. But plants are crazy in New Zealand because we have like really strict biosecurity rules, so you can't like import plants into New Zealand at all. It's impossible, pretty much impossible. So you're stuck with what's in the market unless you're a massive nursery that can afford to bring in and quarantine plants for like 3 months and stuff. So like we have rare plants here that sell for like thousands of dollars every day. Like that's how hectic it is. It's crazy. Yeah. It's wild. I know.
Wow. That's something.
Yeah, you can see all my plants here.
I was seeing those and I was like, I'm not going to turn this into a plant discussion, but like I literally spent hours watching plant YouTube videos today. So
it's really soothing. And I think it's really, yeah, if you're building something online, man, it's so important to have a hobby that's not internet related.
it's true. Anyone else have any burning questions for Liz?
I have a question just in relation to boot camp that you are having in Melbourne this year. Do you think that will still go ahead?
Okay, so I know they've postponed the date, but again, because I'm not organizing it, I actually don't know if they've announced it or not. I have it in my calendar that it'll be on October 23rd, but I think that's really dependent, especially because Melbourne is like not great right now.
Yeah, we're in lockdown again.
There's like an outbreak in Victoria, so I don't know, but like in the meantime, like we're working, I know the girls are working on, like we have the base camp, the online version, like they're, we're gonna figure out ways to make it happen. It sucks because it's like, even maybe they do open it, but like there's limits on numbers and stuff, and travel limits, border limits. It's such a disaster. But I would also maybe get in touch with them if you're keen and come to base camp and do like our online one, because that's really cool, and we give a lot of the same lessons online, and we've done one and it went really, really well. I mean, like, can you imagine trying to organize like an event online on Zoom with like hundreds of people? It was hectic, but it went off like perfectly. So that was pretty awesome. And pretty fun to be a part of. But man, when we have our live events, it's really fun. Yeah, we have lots of cool speakers and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It just really depends on COVID. So I hope you're okay in Melbourne and things pick up and get better.
Thank you. Just staying at home. That's all you can do.
Yeah. Where are all you guys? Are you in the States?
Yeah, I am.
Where are you these days?
I live in Reno.
Really?
Yeah, really close to Tahoe.
Oh, that's cool.
It's awesome.
That's awesome. I can't believe you're settled.
I know. It's a little weird, but it's been really good. When you were talking about slowing down because of COVID and kind of being forced to look into other interests, I was like, yeah, me too. And it's not the worst thing, because it's really hard to do that sometimes, especially as a travel blogger. It's like, oh, I gotta go all the time. I gotta take all these opportunities, and it's hard to find a balance. A lot of travel bloggers say that.
Yeah, and it's also like, even if we can, like, I always think about my responsibility. Like, is it responsible to even promote travel now? I think about that, and like, and what's the right thing to do or not. But I'm really looking forward to it as an opportunity to just do something else. And it was like, because I'm like the kind of person that clings to an idea. If I have an idea, I'm like, I've got to make it work. It's like really hard to let that go, but with COVID, it's like totally out of your hands, and you can either be mad and try and force it, or you can just embrace the fact that that it's like chaos and you just have to try something else. And I really like it. Like I'm like, and I'm putting like heaps of money into this node business. And I've just gotten to a point with my coaching where I'm like, even if I fail and I'll learn from it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? I lose a bunch of money. Like, whatever. It's not enough that it's going to ruin me for the rest of my life. Like, but maybe it could work. And that's where you kind of really have to be able to take risks and stuff and just give it a crack. And if it doesn't work, try something else. But yeah, that's probably my favorite lesson I've learned over the years is just this. I've learned this courage of just trying stuff and the value in just trying and playing. And yeah, hopefully it'll work.
Same. Like Wander Babe is not profitable yet, but we're so close now. And the first month that crushed me. And then I was like, hang on, this is not a magical money making machine. There's no such thing as that. And like, it's amazing if I can break even in month 3. So it's just, yeah, you never really fail if you learn something.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, yeah, think about like what you're doing with it. Like even with this node thing, like if it goes well, like it's not, sorry, it's not, Waka, shut up.
Wow, that worked. That worked. Oh.
Waka, come here. Oh my God, there must be someone outside. Sorry. That's my partner, my dog, Wappa. And yeah, she's a bit wild. Sorry. Wappa, come. Wappa. Oh, anyway, sorry guys. Hold on, I'm just gonna go get her. Hold on.
All right, I'll encourage a final burning question if anyone has one.
I have a question that it's a way bigger topic, so I guess just like condensing it down. Liz, I was just about to ask, so the only time I've ever worked abroad, I was working for another company and not running my own business. So I was just thinking when you were rescuing your dog that this is a huge question, so I know it can't be all covered right now, but I'm just curious, you know, if you're a US citizen, but you've lived now for all these years, and I'm curious what implications there are for someone from the US running a business abroad, like some of the bigger things you have to worry about.
Well, I mean, I'm lucky because I'm pretty settled in New Zealand. So I've got my residency and I'm moving into permanent residency. And for me, it was actually a lot easier to I just run all my business stuff from New Zealand and not from the States. And, have good accountants here. And it was kind of one of the reasons, I had to show that I was contributing and earning money here to be able to get residency and run a business from here. But actually it's not been really an issue at all. I pay a higher tax, but there's this cool, there's a dual tax agreement with the States now. So you get, you don't really have to pay double tax as much anymore. But it changes all the time. And to be honest, I kind of just ignore it. I'm whatever. I'm not there anymore. I just, I sorted out with my mom and with my accountants and people that are helping me, but it's actually not really been an issue at all. And a big part of my invoices are in Australian and New Zealand dollars, so it's easier over here running it that way. But if anything, it was more just tricky organizing my finances because it's probably my least favorite thing in the world. And yeah, and it's complicated here because it's running a business, and then you have this goods and service tax that you put on things, and then you have to give back, and I don't know. And I was always really disorganized about it, and I had a massive issue with organizing money stuff that I had to work through. But no, it's been pretty easy. And New Zealand's awesome. It's so easy here, compared to the States. I pay my tax from my phone, and you have an app with the Inland Revenue, their IRD here. And yeah, and even during COVID, the government did so much stuff to help kickstart small businesses and things. They did this amazing like small business loan that everyone could get with like 0 interest on it and stuff. And they're really investing in, you know, making sure that the economy just like keeps going from the ground up, which is pretty cool. So it was, I really am glad I'm set up here. Yeah, but I don't have a lot of experience about it in the States because I haven't lived there in so long.
Yeah, we could do a tutorial sort of on that side of things because I've done it abroad and in the States now. And taxes are 80% of why I left Germany. So yeah, but now I'm kicking myself because I could have gone for German citizenship, and now I'm like, should I have done that? Should I maybe have done that?
I don't know. I'm really grateful because like, yeah, straight away, like you filled out one form and you get like this weekly compensation here from the government. And like, I'm sure I wouldn't have got it in the States, and just hearing all of that stuff. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. But here it's easier. And even when you mess up your taxes, they're like, it's okay. We'll help you. It's so like small town. It's awesome. I love it. It's like a small town mentality here. But yeah, I pay a lot of taxes. But I get free healthcare, and I basically all got it back from the government. So no strings. So I don't know. We'll see how things play out in like 6 months.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Well, thank you so much, Liz, for coming on and being so candid and sharing so much. And I learned a lot from you. So I really appreciate that. And I hope everyone else did too.
No worries. Thanks so much for like tuning in and inviting me. Like, that's really cool to be part of it. And yeah, I love talking to people like this and still being part of the community and stuff. And it motivates me, you know, as well. So yeah, it's awesome. Thank you guys for listening to me ramble for a while. Hope it helped, and send me some messages if you have any questions. I'm happy to keep chatting.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and thanks again, Liz. And I will see you all next Thursday for our tutorial on monetizing your blog.
Cool. See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.